JPH0917 with you here on another Abandoned Railroads of Massachusetts. We're here in South Framingham at the Framingham MBTA Union Station. And this is where the Milford branch of the Boston and Albany came off the main line. This portion is still being used as it crosses over the highway here and heads off in that direction. Only a small portion of this line is still in service. I think within the city of Framingham itself, it's used. So this is where it begins, right here in South Framingham. Okay, we're continuing down the Y here of the old Milford branch, and we're just around the corner. There is where we just were at the Framingham Union Station here in South Framingham, and the track crossed here. This was the south end of the Y, and you see it went down there, and there's a couple more crossings down there as we are looking south towards Milford, Holliston, Sherborn, and all those towns. And again, this track is still in use all the way down to the Framingham city line, which is still a few miles down the road there. And as you can see, there's some stuff on the tracks down there. So it's... Oh, no. The track curves. So that's why those trees are down. They're not crossing the track at all. The track curves. So that's looking in the direction in which we are going to be going, towards Milford. So this is a former auto rack facility, and it was also where the General Motors facility was on the old Milford line. And this is about as far as the track goes that they still use. As you see, they got a gondola over there. I think that's what that is. Yeah, they use this area today just for extra storage of cars and just to unload, supplies. Yep. But yeah, the old auto plant is in the back over there, that big building. That was the reason the cars came in here. They would unload the cars, and then they would finish them in the plant. Alrighty. So we will continue on, and we'll go to the point where the track ends and the path begins. Okay, now we're in Sherborn, in a little corner hamlet called Whitneys. And as you can see right in front of us, where the track is coming from Framingham. And you can't really see because of the vegetation. There's no sidewalk on that side, but trust me, there is a track down there somewhere. And if you continue to look down there as far as you can see some of the track there. Looking towards Framingham, and camera's not picking it up, but with the naked eye I can see some kind of crossing way down there. So this is where the track ends and the trail is supposed to begin. But on this side you can see track, very nice. And this is exactly where the track comes to an end. And this is where the trail is supposed to begin. I believe the last train ran through here over 20 years ago.
1995, last train through here.
And I guess Sherborn hasn't decided to turn this into a trail yet. So I guess we have to wait until we get to Holliston before we find the paved trail. But this is where the track ends on the old Milford Branch. And now looking up towards Holliston and Milford. So this is Whitneys, and we are going to move on. Okay, we are about a mile from the end of track, and as you can see, they started building a pathway that's looking back towards Framingham. And this crossing did not exist when the line was in use, because this development is just starting to be built. As we can see, brand new road, some landscapers over there, and I guess they're gonna like start building all new houses around here. Now we're looking down towards Holliston and Milford. And so, unlike a lot of bike paths that we've seen, this one's just packed gravel. It's not paved, but still passable. So on this new Mayflower landing, moving on to our next site. Okay, we are in Holliston now. This marks the site of the East Holliston Depot, which is behind me, which also served as the village post office. The station stands as a private residence, and again, it's behind me. There's John. And there's the old East Holliston Railroad Station. It's now a private residence. The facade has been changed up a little from its olden days. And again, looking towards Holliston Center and Milford. So we are on Route 16 here in the town of Holliston, the East Holliston Village. And we are moving on closer and closer to Milford. Now we're here at the Lowland Street crossing here in Holliston. And there you see the bumper of the old spur track that went into this building here, which was the site of an old customer. And as you see, the railroad track is right there. Oh, where the railroad track used to be. This is the crossing right here. John getting his pictures. And right down there is a nice aqueduct bridge that we'll be stopping at our next stop. And that again is looking towards Holliston and Milford. And if we turn around, that's looking back towards the Route 16 crossing where we just were. And so our next stop is that old aqueduct bridge. So this bridge again is...
This is the Woodland Street Viaduct. It's one of two very famous landmarks on the Milford Branch. It's made from Milford pink granite, and that was one of the purposes of this line, was to reach Milford to access the granite quarries. And the same stone that this bridge is built with is the same stone that Palmer Union Station is built with, Framingham, and several other depots on the B&A.
All right. So moving right along. Okay, we're here in Holliston Center, and that's the old Holliston Depot, which has been turned into a little pub called Casey's. They say it's the best wings on earth, but I decided to have a burger instead, so I couldn't tell you. But come on down here and try for yourself. They looked good. Now that's looking back towards the bridge. The bridge isn't too far down the pathway there. So that's looking back towards Framingham. The last passenger train that came through here was in March of 1959. That seemed to be the big year that everybody was dropping passenger service. And so, John again. Now we're looking back towards Milford. And that is our destination for this episode of Abandoned Railroads of Massachusetts. This is the Milford Branch. We are in Holliston Center. Okay, we're just about a mile outside of Holliston Center. And this is the Highland Street, did you say, John?
Highland Street.
The Highland Street Arch. Nice high arch, in which the trains just barely fit. I mean, just look at how wide that tunnel is. See plenty of room for bikers to go underneath it, but so we're looking back towards Holliston Center here. And from what John just told me, they barely got an RDC car underneath that arch.
It was for a fan trip, and they weren't. They hadn't anticipated the RDC going through the tunnel or arch, but they made it happen.
Yep. So, alrighty. So as we turn back, see we're in a little ditch here, and that's looking back in the direction that we are going. That is looking back towards Milford, which is our final destination on this episode of Abandoned Railroads of Massachusetts. And we have a whistle post here in Holliston. It's probably for the Cross Street crossing, which is directly behind me. And down the path there, where the cars are crossing up there, that's where the Metcalf station was. I believe that's route 126 and 16. And as we come around, there is the Cross Street crossing. That's looking back towards Holliston Center and Framingham. Okay, we're here on Chestnut Street in Holliston. We're looking back towards the Metcalfs and the Cross Street crossing. Going back that way. And as you see, they've put up a lot of stations where people can grab bags so they can clean up after their dogs. I don't think that needs any further explanation. And this is looking towards Milford. We're getting closer and closer to Milford. Milford is where the line met I'm at the Hopkinton branch coming in from Hopkinton. So that's looking back towards We're in a little section of Holliston that's called Bragville, and this is where the Bragville station stop was. We are looking back towards Holliston Center, and the the train tracks came across at a more astute angle than, or acute angle, than the way the path is. I guess it's just too sharply diagonal. So I believe John is probably standing right where the railroad track actually crossed. So yeah, so Bragville station was right here. I don't know if it was on that side or that side, but it was here. So we're looking towards Milford this way. And so we're getting there. We're getting to the end of the Milford branch. Okay, we finally made it to Milford, and we're here at the Rocky Hill crossing and station. Station would have been right on the other side of the pathway there on those trees. Everything's all built over. So this is where we are right now. We are in Milford. And we're getting closer to Milford Center, and where this line met the Milford and Woonsocket and the Hopkinton branch. Okay, so we'll be moving on. Okay, we're here at the Haywood Street crossing here in Milford, getting closer and closer to the end. We're looking back towards Holliston and Framingham, looking that way. And then coming around, John taking his pictures. That's looking towards Milford Center. And the end of the line. Haywood Street Crossing, Milford, Massachusetts.
Okay, this is John Rezuke instead of Jim right now. I'm filming for him. And the brick building you see in front of me is sitting on top of the site of what was the Boston and Albany's turntable coming into Milford. We are not too far from the yard. That'll be at the next crossing. And if you turn around this way, there's the right-of-way coming in from the last street we were at. And that's looking towards Framingham. So we're almost there.
And we are here in Milford, just south of Milford Center, which is to the left, and that's the old Milford train station. This is where both the Milford branch from Framingham came in, and the track would have been on the right-hand side and would have crossed right up where you see John walking down to. And this little part right here, this is the Hopkinton Railroad, or which became the Hopkinton branch. Went up to Hopkinton Center, and then there was a continuation over to Ashland. So we are ending the Milford branch, or the Holliston branch, whichever you wish to call it, here. And we're going to start part 2, the Hopkinton branch right here. Of course, the two tracks came together here and continued on down towards Franklin and those places, which is now CSX trackage.